It's really the only book for me. And so I paid the full price for a Bhagavad Gita, which was, I think, $5. And then our temple president, who was Dhananjaya Prabhu, he says to me, okay, now to get your Bhagavad Gita, you go in the library and take one of the books. So every book had in huge letters, temple copy, number such and such, on the binding, on the pages. So this is the Bhagavad Gita, the new Bhagavad Gita that I paid for. And just to show you what happened with that Bhagavad Gita, later I was in Ahmedabad with Srila Prabhupada was wanting to read from a Bhagavad Gita. Nobody had one but me. And I pulled out this book, that said temple copy number 3 or something on it. And I was just he never said anything though, but I was so embarrassed because it really looked like I stole it, So I was, one of my services was that I was in charge of the pujari room. And the deities had 4 outfits. When they were installed, they had 4-day outfits and I believe 4-night outfits. Then they had a set of jewelry for each outfit. So we had these huge pujari rooms and, 4 outfits. But, I put them away, put away the clothes, put away the jewelry every day. That was a service that I did. And I also was helping clean Prabhupada's rooms in the morning. So the most embarrassing thing happened, but I've shared this story before, and somehow devotees love to hear how embarrassed we are in front of Prabhupada. So what happened was that I was cleaning various brass articles, including the lotus from Prabhupada's bathroom. And every day, Prabhupada would go on his morning walk. He was very regulated, as we know. But this particular day, Prabhupada came back early. And I didn't know that. Or if I did know it, it didn't really register. So I'm just doing what I would do every day. When I would finish polishing, I would put this piece here and that piece there, and his bathroom loader would go in the bathroom. So I opened the door to the bathroom, and I walk in. I didn't knock. I just walked in. And there's Srila Prabhupada walking towards me with his dhoti kind of hiked up a little bit, and I just freaked. I just hit the floor so hard, that load hit the floor, and I just left it right there, and I ran out. And then I was, oh my God, I've offended Prabhupada. Now, no matter what I do, he's going to kick me away. There's just no doubt in my mind. I've offended him. What am I going to do? And the women were staying in the guest house, and I ran up to my room, and I was thinking about something that Vishalini had told me. She was like my Indian guru. She kind of knew everything about Prabhupada. Anything she said, I believed her. Like, it was the absolute truth. And this is one thing she told me about Prabhupada. She said, Prabhupada likes 3 things. And I just confirmed it with her the other day. Hadn't seen her in 30-some years. She told me I remembered right. She said he liked 3 things. He liked you to smile at him, to give him money, and to read his books. So I thought, I'll give him some money. And that way, I'll offset this offense. So in my room, I wrote out some message. Don't know what I said, but begged his forgiveness. And I put a 10 rupee note. Now this was a lot of money for me. I mean, it was 7 rupees to $1. Now it's like 62 rupees to $1. So it wasn't really much, but it was what I put in the envelope. And then I ran downstairs, and Guru Puja was already going on. So I went in the side door by the Vyasasan, and everybody, I think, had already offered flowers. And I put the envelope somewhere near Prabhupada on the Vyasasan. And then I offered my flowers. And then I watched to make sure that his servant, I don't remember who it was at the time, but whoever it was, picked up the envelope. So then I didn't think that this was going to offset my offense. So I was lamenting, and one service I was able to do during that time was type for Srila Prabhupada. I had gone to Brahmananda, who was a Swami at the time, and asked for service typing for Prabhupada. And he would let me do that. He would actually dictate, he would get the letter from Prabhupada. I don't know what form he would write down what Prabhupada wanted, but he would make a tape, and then I would type up the tape word for word exactly what he said. So that regularly I'm going to Prabhupada's quarters, and I'm getting the tapes, and I'm giving him the typed letters. And so a couple of days later, I said to him, you know, I offended Prabhupada, and I really don't know, you know, if he's accepting my apology. And so he just said to me, well, did he say he was offended? And I'm thinking, well, I didn't even hang around long enough. That, you know, I ran out of the bathroom so fast. And he said, well, if he didn't say he was offended, he probably wasn't. So eventually I just let it go. And I'm still here, so I guess I didn't offend him too badly. Okay, one thing the ladies I was saying were staying in the guest house. There was a bunch of ladies in one room, and our window, we could see the veranda, the back veranda, where Prabhupada would go in the afternoon and evenings. And we were told repeatedly to not spy on Srila Prabhupada. That didn't stop us. Srila Prabhupada was too attractive, and our warning just wasn't doing it. You know, so we'd turn off all the lights, though, so we thought he couldn't see us. And we would watch Prabhupada, and it was just, every move he made was just so beautiful. He was often meeting with Bhagaji, and we couldn't hear him, but we could see him. We would see, I think Upendra was his servant, and he would come in and out a lot. He wouldn't always pay his obeisances. But Navayogendra, who was a brahmachari at the time, Navayogendra Das brahmachari at the time, every single time he came in or out of the Prabhupada's presence, he would pay obeisances. I could see the difference in culture. You know, it's just like so, but anyway, watching Prabhupada was so amazing. So I admit that I didn't follow the instructions not to watch. We had to watch. It's hard for me to read my notes here, but I'll just try to sum up that by my interactions with Brahmananda Swami, he was talking about how they were going to Ahmedabad next, and my ticket actually was to Bombay, and Ahmedabad is on the way to Bombay. So I was going to use my ticket just by him talking about going to Ahmedabad. He wanted me to go and help carry their typewriter. They had too much luggage. And anyway, makes a long story short, I went on the same airplane as Srila Prabhupada, and that was a whole amazing experience. And he had a tiffin full of prasadam, and during the flight, I believe it was Brahmananda who got the stewardess to bring back some prasadam to me, so I was like relishing Mahama prasadam, and I was trying to distribute whatever book I had on me to the people sitting next to me, but I wasn't able to distribute the book. Okay, there's one more thing I have to tell you. I was in Vrindavan, and then I had to go back to America to get a visa. Was there for 6 weeks, and when I came back to Vrindavan, it was on Janmashtami Day, and I had a picture of Little Radha and Krishna in New York, and I gave this to Srila Prabhupada when he came out of the temple. And Brahmananda was there, and he said, "Oh, this is Mahamaya. She just came back from New York." Prabhupada stopped in his tracks. He turns to me, and he said, "Did we close on the temple in New York?" So Prabhupada at that moment was waiting for news that the skyscraper building on 55th Street in Manhattan had been purchased. Now, I don't even know if I knew the meaning of that word closing in relation to real estate transactions. I mean, now I know, but back then, I don't, even if I knew, I just didn't know what the status was of that building. All I know is that I had an opportunity to go and see the building. Like a group of us went and got a tour of the building. But, that's all I could tell Prabhupada. Well, they have the key, and I got to see the building, but he wanted to know, and he kept on quizzing me, did we close on the property? And I couldn't tell him what I didn't know. So Prabhupada just gave up on my ignorance and walked on, and then Brahmananda hung back and just quizzed me more till he got clear that I only knew what I knew, and I didn't know the answer to his question. But, so many years later, when I was writing my memories of Prabhupada, I thought, what an opportunity I missed. I could have been the one to tell Prabhupada, yes, they just purchased your new skyscraper, 12-story building in Manhattan. But I really didn't know, so that's kind of my relationship with Prabhupada. Was embarrassing and tongue-tied and just disappointing in a lot of respects. But I just want to conclude that when from Ahmedabad, there was, so many things I could say about that pandal. And then later, I lived in Mayapur for years and saw Prabhupada mostly in Mayapur. But this is about Vrindavan. So I'm just going to conclude because people have been talking about what Prabhupada said about devotees having their own deities. So the one time I asked a coherent question was in Bombay. And my question was, well, I really wanted to ask in the first person, can I have my own deity? But I couldn't get it out like that. So I said, can devotees have their own deities? And Prabhupada's answer was no. It will distract from the temple deities. I take it to some extent, time and circumstance. I was a brahmacharini. And, in Prabhupada's books, he makes it clear that householders should make their house into a temple. But still, the general principle should be that we focus on the temple deities. Like he said, we don't want to be, he doesn't want us distracted. So I thank you very much for letting me share my memories. And I also just want to say something to all the devotees who didn't meet Prabhupada personally. He really did mean that Vani, like following Prabhupada's instructions, is more important than his Vapu. Because we can have his Vani 24/7, and don't think that, oh, I missed out meeting Prabhupada personally. You have a relationship with Srila Prabhupada, and you're a follower of Srila Prabhupada. You're here because of Srila Prabhupada. So please, just develop that relationship. We're all in the same boat. We're in separation from Srila Prabhupada, and I just want to encourage everyone to really develop that relationship. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Little down? No, don't introduce. Like this?
Yes.
Okay? Okay. Hare Krishna.
Oh, they can't hear you.
So what can I do? Ah, louder.
Louder. Yes. Like a French lady.
Hare Bol? Oh. Hare Krishna. So first, I want to make a very big homage to Balagopala and Dhananjaya Prabhu with my heart, because the time is short. I could do for ever, eternally, because he's by their mercy that I am here. It was terrible. Dhananjaya got me as his first Bhaktin. And Dhananjaya, when someone asked me, or many devotees asked me, how do you meet Srila Prabhupada? They think I met Srila Prabhupada directly. But I was not from that time. I think it was 71. So I always say, I am very happy the way I met Srila Prabhupada, because I met him in the heart of a devotee. And this is Dhananjaya Prabhu. He was such a nice preacher. He was young and always at the door going for Harinam and always speaking of Srila Prabhupada. So it spread. It was very contagious. Very. So when actually I met Srila Prabhupada for the initiation in London, I already knew Srila Prabhupada because he gave me so much service to do for him, and he always speak about him. Bala Gopala, she came later. It was an arranged marriage. And Bala Gopala, I want to tell her a little story that maybe she doesn't know. So I was in a very hippie mood. So I was taking care of the altar. Bala Gopala, I think it was Panchatattva altar. Is she here? No. Oh, okay. Anyway, I wanted to tell her the story. So I will tell her later then. Okay. So when it's by the grace of Yamuna that I came to Vrindavan. She wrote me, she invited me to come because Surabhi, he had left for India, but he didn't know if he was going to be a devotee or like that. So she wrote to me, she said, Kishori, it would be very nice if you come to Vrindavan. Surabhi, Saurabh is there. So I came to Vrindavan, and the first to Radha Damodar temple, because at that time between Radha Damodar temple and Ramanriti, it seems to be a long distance, and also if it was a little night, nobody would want to take us there, because they were afraid of dakus. I remember that. So I was sleeping there, and it was Palika, Yamuna, Mataili, and of course it was incredible because I was there where Srila Jiva Goswami was speaking to Srila Prabhupada when he was writing the Bhagavatam. I could not almost breathe. So sometimes I'm thinking, please Krishna, give me back these feelings of a young Bhaktin. So I came to Ramanriti. So I met Ananda Baba. I was many stories with Ananda Baba, which every time I want to approach him, he was going, like this, mother, mother. And I was thinking, it's very strange, because he would not want women approach him. So I could not understand why he's going like this to me always. But finally, I persisted, and I found myself in the kitchen with him. And we did many nice things. And later, again, by the mercy of Yamuna, somehow, she left Vrindavan. And before leaving, she was saying, take good care of Srila Prabhupada, take good care of Srila Prabhupada. And later on, Srila Prabhupada, I could never imagine that I would be with Srila Prabhupada very closely. because I always feel myself not good enough, some trauma, something, for nothing. So, but somewhere I was hoping in my heart, something there, very strong. But I will not allow my mind. And one day Satswa Goswami Maharaj came to me and said, Kishori, Srila Prabhupada, remember that you make very nice samosa in London for him. It was a long time ago, and it was only like 3 times. And he said that you can take care of his quarters and cook for him. I was totally, it was magic. It was like a conte de fées. I don't know, a fairy tale, something like this. So I will tell you some stories now. So Balagopala was asking me to tell about the dresses. So I don't remember actually if Yamuna made a dress, Dhananjaya. Do you remember? I don't remember. Anyway, I had to make the dresses for the deities and for the opening. So I think many ladies they know that story. So I wanted to meditate and do it as much as I could, like the dresses they wear in Krishna Loka. But I have no really information. So I remember that there was one book called Hari Bhakti Vilas, but at that time we don't allow ourselves to read any books which was not writing by Srila Prabhupada. But I heard of that, and I thought that there must be many secrets there, and there must be details how the dresses are made. I was addressed in Krishna Loka for good. So I found the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and I was thinking, I am not allowed to read it. It's too elevated for me. So I went to Bagaji, my great friend and protector, and I said, Bagaji, I want to have nice information about Krishna Loka. I am not allowed to read Bhakti Hari Vilas, so please read it to me. So he read it to me, and I found so many nice things about the parrots, the Meena bird. They say Krishna, Krishna. And then it came that idea that I saw Mukhud, you know. And in Vrindavan, they used to do pleated dresses with ribbons, very much. It was Lalit Prashad. I'm sure Yamuna speaks of him in her book. I had no time to read all the book before to come. So Lalit Prashad was very famous. He was like the haute couture of Vrindavan, like in Paris, you know, haute couture. So, and I wanted to do something else from coming from this book. So then I saw, oh, I'm going to have embroiders people make this like these dresses now. So it was the first time. And it was very funny because, so I asked Bagaji to have someone who saw in his house, Ganpat he was called, and he was very, what would you say, hot temper like that, and Brahmanical. He used only to sew for the deities, and his father also, and Bangebergi, and his son, and his grandson today, if you ask to do something, he said no, only for Krishna. So he was, okay, he managed. So he was starting to cut and sew. And then I said to Bagaji that, like the Mukud, I want to make dresses with the parrots who say Radhe Radhe, the Meena who say Krishna Krishna, or inverse, I can't remember now. And so many nice things. So he said, yes, but it's only Muslim who do this work. So I said, Bagaji, no problem. So you have the Muslim to come in your house and do the work. So he said, I cannot do that. I will be very blamed and all that. So I persisted. So he said yes. And I remember it was Gonpat, the tailor, Gonpat. He was sewing. And he was really like a Brahmana. He was from a Brahmana family. And then the door opened, and this Muslim Brijbasi, they start to come here. And he started to scream. And he got up on his machine to sew. Like this. And he got into a big problem, you know. But we pacify everyone, and all the dresses was made there. And it was 4 sets. Then I went to Srila Prabhupada, and because he had asked me to do this, I remember I put all the clothes in a bundle. How do you say bundle? No. With cloth, you go like this. Bundle. And so I went to him, I opened and the bundle, and I showed it to him one by one. He was looking and he said, it's very beautiful, Kishori. All of this you have made, and I was telling him about the Hari Bhaktivilas. Prabhupada, I did not read it, I promise you. Bagaji read it to me. So he said nothing. So then he said, Kishori, all those dresses have been made in Vaikunta. So I was very, very happy. Then I went to see Jayatirtha. He was the priest for the ceremony. He was the chef pujari. So Srila Prabhu, I went showed one dress with many different layers of colors. It's the one you see on the temple entrance, with the yellow backdrop with big sequins. So I was totally Prabhupada had appreciated, he liked it. Prabhupada said it was made in Vaikunta. So I don't question myself at that time. He said that, so it was made there. I don't know how. So I said to Jayatirtha, je see, these are all the dresses that you will have to put. And with Srila Prabhupada, we spoke, and this dress have to be put for the Abhishek. No, for the, how do you say? Installation. Excuse my English. So Jayatirtha, he looked at me, he looked at the dress, and he said, this is good, this is kitsch, like this. And I did not understand the word kitsch at that time, but I saw it's not nice. It's bizarre, you know. I said, but Srila Prabhupada liked it very much. He broke my heart, you know. And Prabhupada too, because Prabhupada liked it. And then he said, who is the chef pujari here, you or me? So it's goody. I didn't know what it means really. So I left. And you know, Surabi, I made many cupboards under the altars in rooms to put all the jewelry, all the mukus, and we had everything. But I thought, I am not going to do it alone, to arrange everything is so nice. I wanted so much to do it. I am going to wait that devotees come for the installation. And then we will do it together. I was thinking like this. because I know the gopis, they are all doing together for Krishna. He will be pleased like this. So the next morning, I come and I won't say her name because she's not here. If she was here, I would say her name. And it's all mercy around Srila Prabhupada. Even if someone do something not nice to you or this or that, it's all around Srila Prabhupada, in the family of Krishna. Everything is okay. So the devotees, American devotees, they was already in those rooms. And the door was closed. So I knock at the door. And she opened the door like this. She said, "What do you want, Prabhu?" I said, "I want to show you where are all the things. And so we can put them in order and shoes like that." She said, "Prabhu, we don't need your help. You can go home." So the door was locked at me. And I had worked for more than 1 year on these things, you know. So so the dress was not like it, and I could not participate to do the service. Oof. So I become hurt, and I run. They told me to go to my home. So I went there, and I start to cry, you know, and like that. Then Shurabi knocked at the door. And I remember I had put my cupboard on the door. I don't want anybody come to get me. And I was saying, "But Krishna Balaram, when you do like this, what is this?" And, you know, drama. So he come and he said, "Open, open." I said, "No." And I tell my story. He said, "Stop with your little story. You don't know about me." So I pushed the cupboard, I opened, and then I saw him rushing in the room, and he was packing. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Yeah, you are complaining about this and that, you know. But me, I have to go to Bombay." Prabhupada said, "You have to start immediately to design the temple in Bombay." So neither him or me could release, and we was, you know, like that, especially me. So then later he pushed me out the room and he said, "You go to the ceremony." So I came in the temple room and I put my hand on where Krishna Balaram is, like this, and I put my black eyes more black and fixing Srila Prabhupada like this, you know, showing him that I am not happy. What's happening? And suddenly, Srila Prabhupada, he deeply looked in my eyes from far. But I promise you, his eyes became so big, like open, like it was like a road where goes all the, something where you go very fast, like this. Open, big windows open of, I don't know. And Prabhupada, he said, "Dance." And he went like this. So I started to dance like this. So then in the meantime, I will tell you a little story with Harisori. Prabhu, is here? Is here, Harisori?
Speaking to the mic.
Is Harisori here?
He's not.
Okay.
Come.
Qu'est-ce qu'il dit?
You have to speak into the microphone. Don't move
Okay.
your head around. Just speak into the mic.
Okay. So we had to close Srila Prabhupada's door very carefully because we don't want I don't know what to say, the mosquito to visit him, you know? It was malaria.
Speak straight into the mic. Don't move your head around.
Like that. So, one time I came in, then Harisori come, and he started to shout at me. And I remember to have carefully closed the door somehow, sir. It was little open. I made a mistake. But I really was careful, you know. So he came between the darshan room and the other space, you know, where Prabhupada goes to his room, and he's like that. So we was there, and he started to shout at me so loud. I was like that, like that. Then suddenly, I felt from the back a strong hand pulling me like this, pulling very hard. Then it was Srila Prabhupada. He pulled me, he went in the front of me, and he started to speak to Arisori. He defended me, just in front of me, put me behind him. He said, "You don't speak to her like this. You don't shout at her." And he went on like this. Oh, and I was feeling, wow, thank you, Arisori. His was off. Prabhupada touched me. Okay. Srila Prabhupada with all the children, you know, like she was saying. So gentle. So he loved children. It just was like this. We don't think about it. He just loved children. And when I was going to cook, he was saying, "Bhakti Kishori, you have to make chapatis for me." So she was cooking out the kitchen of Srila Prabhupada. He used to say, "She's such a great devotee. She will be great as Mirabai." And then to sannyasis who will arrive, he said, "You see this little girl? She's such a great bhakta. When you come to Vrindavan, you have to pay obeisances to her." And sometime, Tajas was telling me, that's something I was not there. But he said, for a long time, he was there, and Bhakti Shori was coming to Srila Prabhupada, and she was sitting on him, taking him like this, and looking at him like a little cat who wants something. And Srila Prabhupada knew what she wanted, so he was patting her in the head and like this. And so Srila Prabhupada, it was just pure love. He had to do all this, you know, what we have to do, all that. That was also pure love. At some time, I forgot that he was the spiritual master, strong on his Vyasasan preaching. So much love, so much love. Okay, I am going to tell you a little thing, very, very intimate, but it's nice that is not. I don't want to make a show of myself. I just want you to release your dear spiritual master that you love certainly more than me. So, anything where he told me you have to share everything. He told me you have to teach everyone how to cook. I said, even men, Srila Prabhupada. He said, everyone. And you have to share everything I gave you. I saw he wrote it on his Prabhupada Lilamrita. So, one time, well, I just, I have to tell you something that all my life I was looking for love. Because from the beginning of birth, all that, so many things. And so I was just a love girl, you know, which I misuse, of course. But looking, only for that. Not for money, not for this, deep, you know, I was trying. And I get always cheated, actually. So, Srila Prabhupada, definitely he knows what we need, because I love to hear my God brothers and God sisters, because they always say that also, that Srila Prabhupada respond to their need. So many times he respond, and that time, it's incredible. I don't know if we can say mystical. So I had given Srila Prabhupada's plate, and he started to eat. And I was staying there little, and I was ready to move toward this door to go to the garden. Then suddenly, I cannot move because, you know, the words we say for these things I'm going to tell you, there is no words for it, but we have to, if we want to talk about it, we have to find some words. So what came to me to say is that suddenly a wave come out of him. He was not talking. He was eating. And a wave came and rolled over me like this. And it was love. Something I never felt in my whole life. I love very much my mother, my father, my children, but not like this. But he preached to me while eating and without speaking. So when I was rolled in that love, and my body was like fizzy, something different and warm, I heard, nobody loves you in this world. Not even your father or your mother. But when he said, not even your father and my mother, I felt my mother and father elevated. It was an incredible thing happening. Because if somebody said to you, not your father and mother love you, no one loves you in this world, it's, oh no, I can't.
Haribo, she has an eye problem. You must switch off the light. Thank you.
Sorry. So, you understand, so it was coming from him, from Krishna Loka, some love like this. And another time I had another experience which is even more, so I don't know if you want to hear? Yeah? Okay. I can't speak long, and I want to say a story with Marahari. Yeah, I will say that. But because normally the story I'm going to tell you is going with two stories before, where I lied to Srila Prabhupada. I lied because he was asking me to do something. He asked me if I know how to do it. I said yes, I didn't know one time. So I saw I don't tell the whole story, I will have no time. But I thought I am going to learn it in the market tomorrow. It was some cooking, because Srila Prabhupada told me everything is rotten in the market, but you go to the market and watch them when they make sweets. This is the best way to learn. So he was asking me to do something, then I thought, okay, I'm going to learn tomorrow, but he catch me right on the spot. He told me, you do it for my breakfast. So I had no time. So I managed to do it. And it was not nice. It was Vadas. He said, Kishori, never give me Vadas anymore. Because Vadas, and he showed with his beautiful hands like this. I always remember his hands. And he said, because Vadas are light as a cloud. They are not hard like a rock. But still, the next day I go to the market, everything. I make nice Vada. And also he told me, don't give it to me anymore. I gave him, and he said it was very nice. A second time happened again with something else. And I said, yes, I know to do it. I lied to him. Yes, I have the machine. I lied to him. And it was almost 10 o'clock at night with Bagaji. And he said, okay, show me the machine. and I had no machine. And so it's a long story. I will have no time. The story? Yeah. Okay, it was at night. At night, I was very, very lucky. Every night, I had darshan with Bhagavad and Srila Prabhupada. And actually, one night, Bhagavad was asking Srila Prabhupada, which we would never dare to ask, being afraid that he makes Prabhupada go quicker. But Bhagavad said, Srila Prabhupada, who is going to take care of everything when you will be gone. So, Srila Prabhupada said, Bhagavad, at night, there is so many stars in the sky. But when the moon is coming, is rising, everyone can see the moon. So in the same way, when that moon will be rising, everyone will see that moon. All right. So another time, we were sitting there. I had given the milk to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada looked at me. He was talking with Bhagavad. We were sitting. And Srila Prabhupada told me, do you know how to make namkins? Everybody knows namkins, I think. If somebody don't know, they can. And I didn't know at all. So I had a vision of it, that's all. Yes, Srila Prabhupada, I know how to make it very nicely. So why I lie? Because I didn't want to get one chance that if I say no, maybe Srila Prabhupada say, okay, doesn't matter, then I won't do that marvelous service. Prabhupada said that if you love someone, you think of that person day and night. So that's what was happening in that house. I was thinking day and night about him, and I would not miss anything. I was just dreaming for a glance, for anything of him. Yeah, it was very simple. So, and I thought very quickly, okay, all those already catch me one time. I thought, no, it's very late now. So tomorrow I go and I learn how to make it. So I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada go on speaking with Bhagavad, very sweetly, nicely, very nice evening darshan. Then Srila Prabhupada looked at me and he said, Kishori, do you have a machine to make those namkeen? Oh yes, Srila Prabhupada, I have the machine. But I didn't know how is the machine to make namkeen. I never saw one, and I don't have it. So Srila Prabhupada continued to speak a little bit with Bhagavad. Then he turned to me. He said, Kishori, go and get that machine and show it to me. Ah, you cannot imagine. No, you cannot imagine. I stand up, my mouth open, and I had no time I had to have that machine. So I don't say, Prabhupada, I don't have it, no. Up to the end I want. So I rush out of his room, and suddenly I appear like my spiritual master. Many times we forget because of the service, those who have been like this know. So I said, my spiritual master, I'm lying, I have no machine. So I rush into that kitchen, which was an open kitchen with a firewood and piles of big pots and all that. And I start to run around that fire, searching for the machine which doesn't exist. But I had to bring something. So I am a cook, and in a corner I see holes, you know, those s- s- slotted spoon that you get, he told me now time.
Making curry.
Yeah, making poi. So I see some holes. So I rushed to there, and everything was going so fast. I thought it must be a door, a kind of door. If I push it through that, it okay, he can believe it is my machine. So I pushed the big pot. It was huge pot on beaten iron, heavy. And I thought it was a slotted spoon, like this, you know. But it was one like this for many people. And when I take it out, it was very heavy, actually. It was le manche. Comment on dit le manche? You know, this,
Long.
and all.
Handle.
Long, like this. So I take it. It was so heavy, and I put it on my shoulder. And I went, oh, like this. And I managed to run back to Srila Prabhupada's room. And I arrived in the room like this with that big thing on my shoulder. So Srila Prabhupada, his eyes became very big. and Bagaji, I could see he became nervous because when he was nervous, he was going like this. So Srila Prabhupada said, is this your machine to make the namkins, Kishore? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. So I put the thing down and I sit down very peacefully. So he was talking to Bagaji. Then he turned to me. He said, all right, you sure you can mend the namkins with your machine? And Bagaji was going like this. Oh yes, Srila Prabhupada. Okay, go and make it. So I am standing there. And the biggest problem now, I never made it. I don't know how to make it. I don't know which kind of flour, which kind of spices, if the dough is wet or not, like that. And immediately, please forgive me, but immediately it came like this. I was trapped, you know. So I thought, I have to trick him. It came. I must trick him. He have to give me the recipe without knowing. So I came very sweetly to him. I put a big smile on my face. I speak so sweetly. Dear Srila Prabhupada, how do you like these namkins the best? Do you like them with maida, is white flour? Maybe with besan, chickpea flour, srita or hatha, chapati flour. Prabhupada looked at me. He was talking with Bagaji, so he was look at me. He said, with besan. So I had, I have one. Srila Prabhupada, please tell me, will you like it better with ajwan or cumin or ajwan? Srila Prabhupada, maybe you would like some haldi in it, some turmeric. Srila Prabhupada said. And maybe you would like them more thin, more big. So in that way, Srila Prabhupada gave me all the recipe without knowing, which I still believe today. I mean, some person tell me another way that he knew, but I like to stay like this, like a small child, you know, hear something and he like to have it forever. So it was too nice like this, ultimately. So then I went and I managed. I came back, I give him, and he said, it's very nice, thank you. Like this. I would really like to tell a story with Smarari, because this is a story. I had very many stories, like I told you, like this, many. But this one is one who is really teaching, and is one of the reasons why I can be here today, because all what Prabhupada told me or did or like that, because I've never been advanced, and I will never be advanced. By the grace of Prabhupada, because I love him, I am here, and he will take care of me. I'm more and more determined. But this, everything I had with him, every word, every instruction, I could say it's like, I never did that, but like, people go on the mountain and they have things to hold on like this. Yeah, hooks they put. So all is like this for me. Whenever I'm in trouble, and unfortunately I'm always in trouble, so this, what Prabhupada said, is there. So I can not fall, apart and like that. To hold on. How strong, how important is the spiritual master. Is incredible. Especially more when you are not advanced, So then, okay. One time, I don't know if you remember, Asparari was cooking for a festival, big. And me, I was cooking for the deities, big also. So I asked him for some potatoes. He didn't want to give it to me. Sometimes he's like this, So we go like this. Finally, I get my potatoes. Then, I don't remember if it was Dhananjaya. I don't remember. Anyway, I pass in front of Srila Prabhupada's house, and I don't remember. I have a feeling it was Dhananjaya, but maybe not. So, if it is, let's say it's Dhananjaya, he told me, oh, Kishori, Srila Prabhupada, he was asking about Smarari, because whatever was in Vrindavan doing, Prabhupada was in it. He was supervising everything, practically, always. So he wanted certainly to see Smarari about the cooking, how is going on and all that. And Dhananjaya said, you know what happened? Someone said, I don't remember who it was, or maybe the opposite. Doesn't matter. That's not the deep thing. So he said that person told Srila Prabhupada, oh, Smarari is gone. Kishori, kick him out of the temple. I said, what? I never did that. I felt horrified. I can never see Srila Prabhupada again. And what did he say after? Oh, Prabhupada said, what? Kishori kicks Smarari out? A brahmachari? A woman? I felt like dead. So I ran to Bagaji house because he was very much protecting me. He was very attached. One time he was with me in Srila Prabhupada's room, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, what can I do? I'm so attached to this Kishori. Prabhupada smiled. He said, you can do nothing. Just tolerate. It's coming from past life. Like this. So he was very much protecting. And so I go to him immediately. Oh, they've been lying to Srila Prabhupada. They say I kicked Smarari, out, and I told him everything. I said, this is finished. My spiritual life is finished. I can never be in the front of Srila Prabhupada. So I rushed in a room in the back of his house. I went into the bed, put a big blanket on my face. So Bagaji become totally like a father, you know. He become totally agitated, put his little shawl on his head, take his cane. I'm going, Kishore. I'm going to see Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to tell him that you never did that. Don't worry, don't worry. So he left. And I was there. And actually, I was not sleeping. I was just waiting to hear the doors for what Prabhupada said. And the door opened, and it was Vrindavan at that time. You know, Brijbasi mood. So I heard, Kishori, oh Kishori, Kishori, oh Kishori. He came like this, and he beat me with his cane. I was under the blanket. Get up, get up, get up. Srila Prabhupada is waiting for you. I was so happy. Then he said to me, I told everything to Srila Prabhupada. Don't worry. Srila Prabhupada said, bring her to me. I make her all right. In 2 minutes, I can never be against Kishori. When Bagaji says that, I felt. So I jump out of the bed and we start to walk, and it's very near. And I was thinking, oh, Srila Prabhupada can never be against me. He said, I know he understands me, and I am going to tell him all this injustice, and the men are very tough on earth, and all these things, you know. And I was thinking, oh, Srila Prabhupada, he's going to pat me on my head, and he's going to say, don't worry, Kishori, I'm with you, don't worry. It was a big teaching that day. So I was getting more and more, enthusiastic like that. Then we came into Srila Prabhupada's room, and Srila Prabhupada was not in the room. So we sat down together. But the time became like a second, became like 1 hour, And I started to feel strange. I started to feel, actually, why I'm here? For a potato story? So, at Prabhupada, there's so many things to do, and so many disciples, and I'm coming here and I started to feel very, but then I would say, no, it's all right. He's going to tell me, poor Kishori, all that. And I look at Babaji, and I become more nervous because he started to go like this. And he was starting to feel nervous also. Srila Prabhupada came in. And when Srila Prabhupada, I noticed, because I saw devotees being chastised, like Tamal or that, and I was just there, because it happened that I was very much there. So Srila Prabhupada will enter, and he will not look at me. He will put his head high and look the other side. And he started to speak with a very loud voice. And he said, still I was hoping that he would consolate me, but I was less sure. So Srila Prabhupada, very loud voice, which I was not used to. He said, what is this? Agreement, disagreement, what does it mean? I was like this. I could not even swallow. So Bagaji was like this, and he was going, yeah. Then Srila Prabhupada went to
Shri Gurave Namaha Bande Rup Sanatuno Raghu Jago Shri Jiva Gopalako Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarine. Vanchakalpatubhyascha kripasindhuvaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. We're feeling very honored to be able to speak today of our experiences of being here during the times of Srila Prabhupada, 1976 to 1977. I was the head pujari and personally dressed Krishna and Balaram. I'm going to have each devotee speak a little bit about themselves and their relationship to the temple. Bojanadev can speak first. Okay. Jai. Is this on? Jai.
Haribol.
Want to use this?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, no.
Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishaya Shashimavani Paschati Deshatani Panchakopadaribhishta Kripasinaveva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Om Jnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshram Natam Jina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So I was fortunate to come to the Mayapur Festival in 1975 and had made friends with Pradyumna, Prabhupada's, or Panditji, Prabhupada's Sanskrit scholar, and he invited me to come for the opening of the temple. At that time, like we heard this morning from Harisari Prabhu and from Gopal Krishna Maharaj, that manpower was a little thin in those days, and we had come to the every devotee was every temple was requested to send one devotee for the Mayapur festival. I think this was the second year it happened in '75, and it was a wonderful experience. So, by some just causeless mercy, I was asked to come and help with the kitchen. So I said, yes, thank you, and came here a little early, left Mayapur a little early, and came to the kitchen. And so our Panditji said, okay, well, the opening feast will have 108 preparations and 10 plates. And I looked in the kitchen, and there was a small 2-burner stove and 2 buckets of coal. So I thought, okay, so I was just thinking, how is this going to happen? And the devotees were saying, well, don't worry, more people are coming, they'll help, everything will be fine. So I was thinking, okay, and I was, first time in India, young brahmachari, 20 years old, so I thought, oh, I'll try, but I was getting a little bit anxious. And so I approached Pradyumna and I said, I'm definitely going to try my best, but I'm a little worried that we're not going to be able to pull this off. And he says, but no, you have to. It's in the Shastra. It's, you have to do it. So then I said, okay. And then the next day he came back and said, I spoke to Srila Prabhupada, and he said, I told him we have a new cook, and he's a little anxious that he might not be able to make the 108 preparations that we're requesting. And then Prabhupada said, that's all right. Just let them make whatever they can make. Yeah. So at that point, all the pressure was off. And then so many devotees showed up, and an old friend of mine from Laguna Beach, where I joined, came. He'd been living in India for a couple years, named Shankar Das. He made 30 preparations, or 30 chutneys himself, I think. And Vishnu Gada came, Apurva was here, some famous cooks from ISKCON had come from Calcutta after the festival. So anyway, it was just amazing that by Krishna's grace and by the mercy of all the devotees. Haribol? Is this better? Somehow or another, the 108 preparations and more were made. And we started to take them in to the deity room. And again, it was 1,008 small cups, and they're all over the altar, and we got most of them on the altar. And Narottam, please come up. Anyway, then Prabhupada walked in to do the artik, and it was just amazing. Actually, I brought a camera, but I didn't take a single picture. I was in some false brahmachari renounced mood that it'd be obtrusive or something. And I'd always wondered, because Prabhupada walked into, and I thought, what a great picture, and that famous picture of Prabhupada with the fan, as he's beaming, doing the first artik. And I thought, well, I was behind, I could have taken a picture, but I thought it would have been a little odd to be some type of strange paparazzi in the background. But Yadabara said, if it was me, I would have taken the pic. But, he was an empowered photographer. But anyway, the Association of Prabhupada at that time was devotees that had lived in India were very lucky because it was very intimate. By the time I had joined in Los Angeles, it was in 1975, and when Prabhupada would come to Los Angeles, it was a huge, all devotees would come from all over the West Coast, and you would see Prabhupada giving classes, and maybe if you're lucky, see him take a morning walk. And, as a high schooler, I'd come to the temple and been chanting, and I was feeling something from the chanting, and devotees told me, he said, well, you just missed our spiritual master, he's a pure soul, he can see God. And I thought, well, okay, that's possible, I think, that's not beyond, but I really want to see this person that they say is a pure devotee. And I was convinced the philosophy was amazing, everything was wonderful, but when Prabhupada came to the airport, LA airport, the first time, and I think many devotees have had this experience, when he walked out, immediately within the heart, it's almost like your heart would stop, and you just thought, oh my God, it's all true. You immediately knew that somehow you were in the presence of an extraordinary personality who seemed just to smile and glide along, but yet everybody was running to catch up. And the kirtan was ecstatic, and of course Prabhupada was, as everyone says, whenever he looked at you, he would look in your eyes and would see right into your soul, and you had nothing to hide. And I had, at that point, after reading and chanting, and when you're in Prabhupada's presence, personally, I didn't have many questions. I mean, he had already answered everything, and it was just like, okay, do your duty. And of course, things came up, and if a question did come up when I was in college, it just miraculously would be the answer would be in the Krishna book. I think we all had that experience, that we were trained and we could ask people and find the books, full of so alive. To this day, we can still do the same passages over and over and get deeper and deeper meanings. So the remembrances of all the devotees, I think Siddhanta Prabhu he has a memories tape, and everyone's personal interaction with Prabhupada is so valuable, because we're all individuals, we all have different experiences, and sometimes Prabhupada was saying something to that person, that's because that's what they needed, and another person could ask the same question, they would get a different answer. It's not because the answers weren't correct, it's just that person was on a different level or needed a certain understanding that was given by Prabhupada. So as time goes on, I realize that everyone's an individual, obviously, and coming from, this is our philosophy, we're eternally individuals, but everyone is unique. And I'm very happy to, every week I send out quotes of Prabhupada that were compiled by Daiva Shakti.
Okay.
And one of those quotes from Prabhupada, I forget the day it was, but he said that everybody's a unique individual and has something special to offer in their service. They were created as an individual, has something unique to offer. So we're not meant to all act and be the same. Krishna likes variety. He likes characters. He likes that we all have individual choices to make and we all have different talents. And Prabhupada was able to fan that and encourage everyone. And we're kind of just out of ignorance. We're impersonalists at heart in some ways, and we just want to think that it should be the same for everybody. As it was for me, it should be the same for everybody else, and they all have to do it the same way. But spiritual realization is a very personal and intimate thing, and even though there's general rules that apply to everyone, everyone's journey is valid and special and unique. And Prabhupada was able to encourage that and give each, just by a word. You know, some people were lucky to have so much association. Prabhupada himself only had a few meetings with his own spiritual master, but we're all, you know, unbelievably lucky to get the association that we had that carries us through. And it can only go deeper and deeper. That Harisari Prabhu has made a wonderful diary. Shrutikirti Prabhu has also given his experiences. And as I read those and I hear those recollections of devotees, how Prabhupada was doing his duty and giving what that person needed, but he never held a grudge. We made a mistake. He wasn't ever trying to make, he had to correct us, but then he moved on. It was never that, we've all made mistakes. It said that you have to, you know, a baby has to crawl before it can walk. And so we can, you know, Prabhupada was always very encouraging, and he's an ocean of mercy. And that quality is always can be tapped into. He has that mercy because he's connected to the source of all mercy. So I just wanted to encourage everyone to go deep into their spiritual life. That I know personally that I've never been let down by Prabhupada. I've let Prabhupada down, or haven't been as forward as possible, you might say. But I know that mercy is there, and that as time goes on, Prabhupada said that it has to happen, that if we follow and are sincere, we'll have to go back to Godhead. That's his guarantee, and that's his mercy. So I'll let other devotees speak that have much more association, and feel very blessed to be here and have this opportunity to see and be with all the devotees, and thank you very much.
Jai Hare
Hare Krishna.
As I was saying earlier, we'll let everyone introduce themselves and share their experiences. But before we continue, I'd just like to introduce, this is my wife, Shaktimati Devidasi. She was with me here as I was head pujari, 1976 to 1977. We became Prabhupada's disciple in 1969 in Hawaii. That's pretty far back there. It started in 1969. We were just young. I was 20 years old then. Practically, the movement was just in its infancy, of course. There were practically hardly any deities installed. You can hardly imagine. Our whole program was Nam Sankirtan and distributing back to Godheads. It was a preaching movement. But Prabhupada wanted, of course, to give us the full rounded program that a Vaishnava should have in his life. Hearing, chanting, and worshiping is all part of our program, whether we're intimately engaged in this service of the deity, or we become inspired to distribute books, but sing the deities every morning for Mangal Artik. We all have a relationship with the deity. But just a little history for myself before we go on. So practically there was no deities, but I was initiated in Hawaii, and the first Panchatattva became established there. There's a whole story with the establishment of Panchatattva, and Prabhupada came personally and installed the deity of Panchatattva, but practically we had no experience at all of what that meant. I was a preacher doing various programs, a radio show, Krishna Hour on the radio, going to prisons, doing street sankirtan. But I was also the temple cook, so I did everything at that time and did some of the artics. When Panchatattva was installed, no one really knew what to do. We had to call Prabhupada. He laughed and, Prabhupada, what should we do? But I remember my first experience that I was in the kitchen and cooking puris for Panchatattva and seeing the puris puffing. And then I thought, how intimate it is that now we get to directly serve Krishna by cooking for him. Of course, you know, we used to offer all our food on the altar, but we were personally now cooking for Panchatattva. So this was my first experience as a pujari. Later we moved to Los Angeles and got some training there because Prabhupada established that the LA temple was the place for training. Prabhupada established Rukmini Dwarkadish, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Gaurnitai, like that. So we went there with the idea of getting trained, and then immediately we were trying to absorb everything and learn everything. We were sent to Mexico City. There were no deities there, and we established first little Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra, and later Pandal deities were sent by Prabhupada to Mexico City after we had mentioned that we would like to install Radha and Krishna there. So Prabhupada sent this letter. Let me see if I can get it up here. Prabhupada sent this letter to me personally. He says, "My dear Turiyadas, I have heard that you are well qualified to worship the deity at the highest standard, and this is very much necessary. One who is worshiping the deity must always be attentive and mindful of his occupation at all times. He must never for one moment forget his duty of serving the deity and willing to stick for that service." So Prabhupada somehow gave that recognition. He had heard something, I don't know what, but that I feel was my future became then when I visited Vrindavan on that festival plane that we heard about. What was it?
747.
747. The whole plane was filled with devotees. But when we went to Mayapur and I got the opportunity to travel with the BTG group, and we went to Puri and other places where Prabhupada was putting on programs and sitting intimately with Prabhupada, taking meal and so forth, it was a wonderful experience. And then we got to Krishna Balaram Mandir, and the temple president, who was in Mexico City, saw me and said, "We need a head pujari here. Why don't you come?" So at that time, we decided, all right, we'll come. Let me go back to Berkeley. I was at Berkeley at that time as the head pujari, helping set the standards there when the temple was just purchased. And so we got back, and I invited my wife and my son. How old was he then? 3 years old, and said, "We're going to Vrindavan. I'm going to become head pujari there." So that was our invitation.
What year was
That was in 1976, and we'll tell a little bit more after. But first, we'll let Narottam speak something. Here you go.
that? Pass the microphone.
This
Is it
working? Oh, wait. You can use this one. You don't need cord. Don't need
Hare
that
Krishna.
cord. All right.
Hello?
Hello?
Hare Krishna.
There you go.
Hare Krishna. My name is Narottam Ananda Das. I'm in Vrindavan and I'm sick. It makes me think of the old days.
Yes.
40 years ago today, for this festival, I was also in Vrindavan. Before I arrived in Vrindavan, I'd been in Paris. I was the head pujari in Paris for about a year and a half. I'd come from America and basically came to India for the Mayapur festival. It was the second Mayapur festival. So I went to Mayapur. I arrived after the devotees because I wasn't sure to come. So I arrived in Delhi on my own, went to the old Delhi temple where Tejas was the temple president on Tadurmal Lane, Bengali Market. And he told me you have to go to the train station, you have to get a ticket, you do like this, you do like that. So I got my ticket to go to Calcutta, and then I went out to Mayapur all by myself.
Talk a little closer to the mic, I think.
Closer to the mic. Okay. So I arrived in Mayapur, and then I was fine the first day, and I was sicker than a dog for about 3 days. Because in those days, of course, there was no bottled water, It was very easy to get sick from the water. Everything was different in India. And we must have been there 10 days or 2 weeks for the Mayapur festival, and then everybody left to come to Vrindavan. In Raman Reti, in those days, of course, our temple was here, and mostly there was sand and very few ashrams, and there was really not much going on in Raman Reti. If you were in Loy Bazaar and you asked a rickshawala to give you a ride to Raman Reti, chances are he didn't want to take you because he was worried about the dacoits and he was worried he wouldn't get a ride back. So you can see in 40 years how much change there's been. It's like so much change. It's hard to imagine things could have been like that. So I was just, a devotee coming for the festival. And there was a handful of devotees that were supervising the construction of the temple. Rudas sitting over there. And of course, other devotees, Gunarnava, Surabhi, and others. And when the temple was completed and all the deities were installed, then of course there needed to be manpower. There had to be people that would do the service, do the cooking, do the artiks. So many people to organize and run the temple. So generally in ISKCON, a devotee would go to some town and rent a storefront, do Sankirtan, worship a picture of Gaur-Nitai or Panchatattva. And a few temples had deities, but not that many temples had deities. So when the Vrindavan temple opened, they had practically more deities than existed in the whole of ISKCON. And all very large deities. So it takes a lot of manpower to take care of all those deities. But there was actually no real Vrindavan temple devotees. That, like I said, there was a handful of people. So Srila Prabhupada said that each zone has to give a certain number of people to man the temple. And of course, most of us that came to India for the festival were just coming for the festival. Nobody expected to stay, and nobody had any India experience. We were all, I mean, of course, we were reasonably new devotees. I became a devotee when I was 19. I must have been, I don't know how old was I when I came here, but we were, basically new devotees with some experience, but, a real devotee prays like Srila Prabhupada on the Jaladuta. Somebody who's got real depth of devotion, somebody who's truly surrendered to Krishna. That's how a true devotee thinks and speaks. So our qualification was really somehow that we could hear from Prabhupada, that we were intrigued by him, that we were trying to love him the best we could, even though we didn't really know how best to do that. But we just were captured by him, and we wanted to assist in whatever way we could, whether it was by cooking or cleaning or, doing puja or cooking, preaching, talking to people. So Srila Prabhupada would have us, for example, in Detroit, he'd have us going to the worst neighborhoods, doing Sankirtan door to door, to a kirtan, having kirtan parties, going to neighborhoods where most people would not go. And this was, of course, not happening just in Detroit. This was happening all over the world. So Sankirtan, Sunday feasts, all these various activities were taking place. But India was a new thing. Vrindavan is the first temple that was really built as a temple. Otherwise, we would just take over a storefront and have a little place and do Sankirtan and have people come for the Sunday feast. So it was quite exciting to know that there was a temple being constructed just for the purpose of devotion and in Vrindavan, Krishna's holy land.
Yeah.
So here we are in Vrindavan, and you know, one GBC member came and asked my friend. His name was Govardhan, and he was very artistic, very creative. He was a pujari and just all around generally very creative person. So they asked him, would you please stay in Vrindavan and be the head pujari? He says, I'm not ready to stay in Vrindavan. He was the temple president in Detroit and had a very responsible position. Vrindavan was a simple little village without much facility. And then they asked me. Second choice. So I said, well, personally, I don't mind. Because somehow in my heart I felt there's so much to be learned in India from the culture. I remember when I was in Paris and I heard in India they have stores that just sell Didi paraphernalia. I thought, how cool is that?
Yeah, really.
They have stores that just sell Didi paraphernalia. So I thought if I spend time in India, that I could really learn the traditional way of doing things. Because I was also a cook. And I learned to cook from a very expert Indian gentleman. And I'm one of the cooks that didn't make pizza for Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah.
I figured, you know, we can read Krishna book and Bhagavatam and read certain preparations that Krishna ate. And so I thought, well, if I can just learn how to make those perfectly, then I don't have to be on the mental plane. So I would always try to cook very traditional prasad. So I thought if I spend some time in Vrindavan or India, that it's a way to go dive deep into deity worship and cooking and really learn the tradition. So I said, well, I don't mind to stay, but go talk to my in charge, which was Bhagavan, who's in charge of France. And we were very good friends. We kind of joined together, went to university together. And we were like brothers. He said, no way, Narada, I'm staying. But Vrindavan Temple was, of course, very dear to Srila Prabhupada. It was a very important temple to you know, just make sure things were done properly. And in the end, of course, they couldn't come up with someone else because actually there was very few men in those days that were involved in deity worship. And in Vrindavan, because of the circumstances in Vrindavan and the various temples and the pandas, Srila Prabhupada was concerned that we should do things like the other temples do. We have to fit into their system. He actually had no difficulty with women doing puja. In the West, of course, women always did puja, and for example, in Los Angeles, Shilavati was the standard. I mean, Shilavati and Jamuna were the two standards of deity worship in ISKCON. And in the early days, the women would make the turban pieces, and we would dress the deities, and the ladies would make the turbans, and then we would put the turbans on the deities. So, in the end, I did stay for the first year. I was head pujari and dealt with the struggle of trying to maintain a standard. Pradumna Prabhu, our Sanskrit scholar, of course, he studied Hari Bhakti Vilas and established a very high standard. Each deity had his own plate, his or her plate. Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta, each deity had their own plate. And of course, 3 pujaris for every every artik. Each altar had their own pujari. And to wake the deities in the morning took, I think it was 6 people. 1 person in the kitchen to make all the plates, because you had, was it 12 plates or 10 plates? 10 plates. So 1 person had to make the plates. So you had maybe 5 different preparations for Mangal Arati. So 1 person had to make 50 things he had to serve out. And then the 3 pujaris were getting their artik trays ready, and 3 other people were washing the floor, and just, so it took quite a number of people to actually wake the deities. We'd have to touch the deities' feet, ring the bell, chant the mantras, put their crowns back on. And in those days, there were no cell phones. In those days, everybody didn't live in one place. Somebody's staying in Fogel Ashram, somebody was staying in the guest house in the inner part here. Everybody was scattered. So I was responsible. I was the head pujari. Somehow everything had to go on. And often things did go on. But occasionally in the morning, I was the only person. This one's sick, this one overslept. And there's no way to get a hold of anybody. So it was really very trying often. But one thing about Vrindavan is, in India, I really had the sense that deity worship is non-different from Sankirtan. Often in the West, not so many people come to the temple. It's one pujari doing an offering with a tape of Srila Prabhupada playing in the background, and everybody's off doing something, and you're there by yourself. But in India, deity worship is really, there's a lot of life there. And, you know, we're all eager to hear from Guru Das and the devotees that were really here in the early days, because I came after the temple was standing. But there's a whole huge chapter, a number of chapters, before I even arrived. How all the, I mean, because in India, we know the straightest place from, the straightest line from one place, what is that? It doesn't exist in India. Because, you know, there is no direct anything in India. Everything is a zigzag and an adjustment, and you have to do the same thing 20 times. I mean, now there's more facility, but, you know, you transplant devotees that are experienced in the West, and you bring them to India with no India experience. Tell them to construct a temple. Tell them to remain healthy and do deity worship. Whatever it may be. It is not easy. And here I am 40 years later. It's hard to believe.
Yes.
So I think I'll pass the microphone. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
It's hard to think. Yes, 40 years ago, we were here, and we all were eager to please Prabhupada, and we knew Prabhupada wanted the highest standard. As Narottam mentioned, we were trained to some degree in the West. Okay, we saw how it was in Los Angeles. We were able to set up the standards to replicate that in Mexico City. Then I went on to Berkeley to help them when they bought the Berkeley temple there. But coming to India was a whole new experience. The sweet thing, though, we were in Prabhupada's temple. The unique thing was we felt that Prabhupada was the temple president here. As we had heard earlier from Harisari Prabhu, Prabhupada kept close account of everything. So Prabhupada ran everything. He was the real temple president amidst the cycling of so many other personalities. Prabhupada was behind the scene for everything. Now, Harisari Prabhu mentioned a story today about garlands. And this is a unique story, which I'm going to let my wife tell the story. You want to tell the story about Prabhupada and the garlands? Is that on?
Jai Shri Prabhupada. It was a never-ending Leela with the flower wallas, because they were, like Hariswari mentioned, they were always trying to cheat us, giving us old flowers that fall apart as soon as you put them on the string. They would put stone chips in the bag to make it weigh more. They'd make them really wet, so they were really heavy. And every day, Prabhupada would look what the condition of the garlands was. And it was sometimes a struggle to even get enough pujaris to dress the deities every day, much less enough devotees to make garlands every day. There just weren't that many devotees here. So Prabhupada, we started buying garlands, and they were really bad. They were giving us yesterday's garlands. And
Why
they looked,
were they giving us yesterday's garlands?
because Prabhupada wanted the garlands on at the greeting of the deities. And most Brijbasi temples, Vrindavan temples, they don't really have the greeting of the deities till later, and they don't necessarily even put garlands. At that time, they didn't necessarily even use fresh flower garlands in all the temples, and it certainly wasn't as early as ours. But Prabhupada insisted that when the deities appeared in the morning, they would have fresh flower garlands. He didn't like that we were buying them already strung. He saw there were some ladies, and he said, why aren't they making the garlands? The ladies should be making the garlands. But we tried, and really nobody wanted to show up for that. So Prabhupada had a major a trick that he did on us. He told Himavati, at the time she was here, he told Himavati, get all the ladies, I'm going to bring them to my garden. I'll teach the ladies how to make the garlands. So, we all showed up for that, because Prabhupada's going to show us how to make the garlands. So everybody was there, we're all excited, we're sitting on Prabhupada's upstairs bedroom balcony, waiting for Prabhupada to come show us how to make garlands. And Himavati comes in with a basket of flowers. And she says, Prabhupada told me I can show you how to make the garlands. So we did, from that day, though, it did get better. The ladies were engaged in making the garlands every day for that. But it was humorous the way Prabhupada had his pulse. He knew exactly what was going on. And he would sometimes ask the temple commanders or the temple buyers, how much you're paying for the potatoes? If they didn't know, he really didn't like that. He thought we should know the price of everything. He wanted to know every paisa that was spent. And inconceivably, the temple was so poor in those days that we couldn't even get soap. There were times when you'd go to the go-down window and ask for a bar of soap, and no, Mataji, no soap. We couldn't even get soap or toothpaste. You were lucky if you got a cup of milk. And it was very austere. But as my husband has mentioned, the real nectar was that Srila Prabhupada was in charge. He was here most of the time that we were here during that year and a half that we were serving as pujaris. And he was very kind on us to engage us here. It was the best part of our lives.
Yeah. One of the other aspects of the flower story was that to get the flowers to us on time for greeting the deities, the flower pickers would have to go out, and it was still dark before they could get the flowers, and then the ladies to string it. But they were afraid to go out into the gardens, all through the fields in Vrindavan, because the snakes are out at that time. But Prabhupada was very strong that we had to have fresh flowers. We're not going to take the flowers from the night before. He made them go out and pick the flowers before the sun rose so that we could have them. But this was Prabhupada's way. Everything had to be first class. Prabhupada wanted it first class, and our obligation as head pujari was to try to make it first class. We had just been introduced to the concepts of Archana Paddhati and like that. It was a little bit controversial because it hadn't been published or fully approved yet, but it was in writing. Jaitirtha Prabhu had been working on the book. He had never seen it actually implemented, and we felt, okay, we should start to implement this because this is the standard that was set by our Goswamis. It was this standard that all the temples function under. So we began to introduce that system, but there was still some controversy. So I wrote Prabhupada a letter, and he wrote from Mayapur. He wrote, "My dear Tiriyadas Prabhu, Please accept my blessings. I beg acknowledge receipt of your letter dated February 16th. This was 1977. He said, please continue to increase the deity worship and teach others to become a very good pujari like you. When I see my disciples doing deity worship nicely, that engladdens me. Sevan mukhi hi jivadao, swayam eva spruti adhao. God realization is possible only by service. That is the only way. He is adhoksaja. Tesham satatam juktanam bhajatam priti purvakam vidami buddhi yogam tam jinamam upadyanti te. When one engages in devotional service, Krishna gives intelligence from within. Otherwise, how the unlimited can be served by the limited? So please continue to make the worship more and more beautiful, hoping this finds you in the best of health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We do feel blessed, as many of us remember that most fortunate time in our life, as Hari Sari Prabhu also mentioned, the unique opportunity to serve while Prabhupada was there, to get his chastisement or to get his praise, to get his smile or to get his frown. It's all absolute. The idea was to serve to the best of our ability, and to try to please Prabhupada. We try to establish such standard of worship. Of course, during that time, like I mentioned, there's great intimacy with Prabhupada, giving him his Charanamrita after he came to see Gaurnitai, Krishna Balaram, after we had dressed them. Prabhupada's glancing at them, going on, seeing Radha Shamsundar, and then holding out his hand and giving him his Charanamrita. What a blessing to see Prabhupada sitting on the asana and speaking directly. We were blessed at that time to have that intimate darshan with Prabhupada, the opportunity of service. When Prabhupada was ill, for instance, the Kaviraj told us that Prabhupada should have a garland of tulsi every day. But Prabhupada wouldn't take any tulsi garland that was not first offered to the deity. So every day we got to offer the tulsi garland to Krishna Balaram, and when Prabhupada would go to his garden and sit, where his murti is now in that garden, we would be able to take that garland from Krishna Balaram and place it on Prabhupada, knowing this was the service of the Kaviraj's request, that Prabhupada smelled the garland, and he would graciously receive that. So, how much intimacy does this temple have with Prabhupada? How much, as we heard, this is Prabhupada's home. He engaged us in so much service because his natural mood in preaching was to see to the upliftment of all mankind. This temple was for everyone. It's an interesting thing. My wife was feeling the other day, when we go into the temple now, it's so many people there. We were fortunate if we could get a crew of 7 on the altar, right? We were fortunate if we could get 7 persons and rushing to get everything done. Now, how many? Over 30, I think, are regularly engaged in staff or something. But we can hardly get to see the deity that's so far away. And my wife was thinking, oh, I wonder if Krishna Balaram remember us. We served. So she thought, now it is like big city. Previously it was like small town, small village. Krishna came from the small village of Vrindavan. But the gopis thought like that also. Does Krishna remember us? Of course, Krishna never forgets the service that his devotees rendered, especially the intimate service that so many devotees rendered to us help establish this temple. And we should all feel blessed that we are able to be here because of the work of Srila Prabhupada and his extended arms, the devotees who are dear to him and worked hard in all kinds of circumstances, under all kinds of sicknesses and mosquitoes, unlimited mosquitoes. It was a different world, but this is the living proof. Srila Prabhupada's mercy is here, and Krishna Balaram's blessings is going out daily to hundreds of thousands of persons, and this was Prabhupada's dream. Jai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Rao. We have a lot more stories we can share, I'm sure, intimate stories like that. I know we're supposed to. You want to say? Okay, so we're going to kind of share the mic around now and share stories.
I just wanted to say that now that we've been on the topic of flowers, that I think Srila Prabhupada is smiling magnificently at the flower arrangements in the temple today.
Yeah, now. Huh?
I mean, I couldn't believe the garlands on the deity doors were so beautiful. All around the temple, that Krishna is actually, now more people are coming, he's expanded opportunities for people to do service. So artistic, so beautiful. So when I was here for the opening, one event stuck in my mind, in that Srila Prabhupada, being the perfect spiritual master, he was able to implement knowledge and teach us through his own actions, and how he applied the knowledge that he's teaching us all in a very loving way. There's a number of examples like this, and I know on one of Siddhanta's tapes, one devotee, and a significant thing for him is Prabhupada told him once that Krishna consciousness is very powerful. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness is very powerful, but it should never be used as a weapon against other people. You know, there's the whole history of corruption, of collusion between politicians and religious peoples all over throughout history, where they've taken the power and the people's faith in religion and tried to use that as a weapon for their own means. But a devotee has no such personal ambition. And Prabhupada's education of us was very strong. At the same time, the way he applied it was very loving. So a specific example of this is that we were sitting, Prabhupada would give darshan in his room, and so all the devotees, it was mostly devotees, still most of us Westerners were here, and we were so happy to be in Prabhupada's presence. So one young Indian boy walked into the darshan room, and he had a flute in his hand, he had big hair, he had a yellow dhoti on, he had painted himself blue. And in my young, immature mind, I thought, oh my God, what an offender. This person thinks he's Krishna, and he's walking right in front of Prabhupada dressed as Krishna? I mean, you know, I looked at Prabhupada like, you know, should we bounce this guy out of here? And Prabhupada's going to look like, just relax, you know. And then he very gently and kindly spoke to this person, and he spoke to him in Hindi, and he didn't blast him, he didn't say, who do you think you are, you're a demon. He was very sweet. He was very sweet, and then that person just kind of wandered off just as gently as he wandered in, you know, but he got Prabhupada's darshan and blessing. And it's the same with science. Prabhupada, teaching science, he was very, very strong in trying to educate us not to have blind faith in scientific theory, which is all bluff, basically. But yet when he dealt with the scientists would come to see him, especially in the garden in Los Angeles, he was, as always, the perfect gentleman, you know, and kind and encouraging. So how to apply this knowledge that we have is very strong, and how to apply it in a loving way, with actually being concerned for the person's spiritual advancement and not trying to one-up them, not trying to best them, not trying to have any type of ego conflict, but gently educate them. I think Bhaktisiddhanta said through gentle persuasion is really our means of preaching. Even though Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta and Prabhupada could be so strong, but that strength was to build our faith and to get us freest from illusion, and at the same time show love and compassion. So I think Prabhupada was such a master at exhibiting this in so many different ways, and teaching by example and with love.
Jai. We were told to speak closer so they can hear it on the radio. Okay. Prabhupada's mercy was always unlimited. It's an interesting story. When I first came here, that I remember, I was invited to become head pujari, and we arrived, and Prabhupada gave a lecture practically the same day, I think, when I came. And he always wanted us to know that our purpose was to help others to become Krishna conscious. So what he said from his Vyasasan, because he saw so many devotees were starting to come, but no one was actually out there preaching, he said, we can hire persons to ring the bells. I thought, oh, we just came to ring the bells. We were hired as we were asked to come as head pujari. But he said, we can hire. Our main business is preaching. Prabhupada's compassion was always in the mode of preaching. That was obvious to me at the end when Prabhupada's health became a little better and he felt eager to go again to the West. So he made arrangements to go to London. We knew how sick Prabhupada had been. He was under Kaviraja's care and so many things. But Prabhupada immediately felt, now there is health. I will go to the West. So he made the arrangements to go to London. And I remember standing at the door as Prabhupada was leaving. It was late at night. There was not very many devotees out there. But Prabhupada came out his door and got in the ambassador car and went down to the point where Bhaktivedanta Swami Marg is there. And then when you turn right, that was the end. But I could see the lights going, the back of the car, turning and thinking, how amazing is Srila Prabhupada that as soon as there is health, he is wanting to go out and preach. Even when we arrived here, he was chastising, why isn't everyone preaching? Because preaching, in the highest essence, and Prabhupada taught me this also, is the act of compassion. The first time I got the opportunity to actually see, I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1969 through correspondence, but I went to the LA Ratha Yatra, actually not LA, excuse me, San Francisco Ratha Yatra, but we arrived in LA and Prabhupada was there, and then everyone traveled up to San Francisco, and this was the first time that there were 3 carts. Prabhupada was so pleased. How wonderful was that Ratha Yatra? And so afterwards, we all returned to Los Angeles, and Prabhupada returned there also. And we were all going to back to Hawaii, the few devotees that had come from Hawaii. But our temple president, Gorsindar, and Govindadasi were closely related with Prabhupada as they had served him in intimate ways. So we were able to go up to his room just before leaving. And there were a few other devotees. And Prabhupada began to speak that how wonderful is this Ratha Yatra. And as he began to speak, he says, this is preaching, this is preaching. And tears actually began to run from his eyes. And he became so emotionally surcharged with compassion that he couldn't say anything anymore at that point. And he just kind of told us by hand movement, should leave. He wanted to be left alone now. So as we were all leaving, I let everyone leave because I was thinking, this last time I'm going to see Prabhupada for a while, I'm going back to Hawaii. So I left, I'm walking out, and Prabhupada sees me there and points to his servant and tells him to give me the garland, his garland. And I felt, oh, this is Prabhupada's mercy, his compassion has come now. So we felt from that point too, how much important, not only is preaching, but deity worship and preaching, they go hand in hand. I've always felt myself as a pujari preacher. Being a pujari alone without preaching is incomplete, but I feel also that everyone should have some connection with doing the seva of the deity. Krishna is present. Prabhupada used to always say, it is not statue, it is Krishna. Krishna is here to accept our service. And as Prabhupada wrote here, the way to God realization is through service. My first letter, my initiation letter also, Prabhupada emphasized the fact of service. Krishna appears in his deity form so we may serve him. Krishna, as we were saying, we got to cook that puri for Panchatattva, and we felt, oh, this is direct service for the Lord. And I know every pujari has that feeling when they're serving. Here is Krishna. The pujari never thinks I'm serving statue. I'm serving Krishna. And when we go before the deity to get his darshan, Prabhupada once said, darshan means that the deity is looking at us. We're not going only to see the deity, we want the deity to see us. We want Krishna to see us. We're going for his blessings. Jagannath Swami Nayana Pattagama Bhava Tume. We want Krishna to bless us, and we go before him. And if we get there early in the morning, he says, oh, my devotee has gotten here so early, got up so early in the morning just to come to see me. So he gives blessing. So in this way, Prabhupada's compassion, I would say, is so magnanimous, we cannot understand it or capture it in any kind of intellectual way, because it reflects Mahaprabhu's, Nityananda's compassion upon the living beings, upon the world. This whole Krishna consciousness movement is the compassionate movement of the Lord, and it is spreading, as Mahaprabhu wanted, every town and village, for the purpose of what? Preaching. To give us the opportunity to render service, to give us the opportunity to do something to better mankind, and thus serve the Lord in this mood. I'm going to tell one more story and then hand it over to my wife to continue it. When we were first invited here, we had been doing a preaching center for some time, and we had Gaur-Nitai deities who then accompanied us to the Berkeley Temple, and small Gaur-Nitai. They were very magnanimous. And these Sankirtan ladies began taking care of them because we were then establishing the worship there. I was serving Radha Gokulananda in Berkeley like that. But when we were invited to come here as head pujari, we thought, she will not have opportunity really, because we knew the standard in India. So then we thought, we will bring Gaur-Nitai. They're so compassionate upon us. They came to our home when we were preaching out of our home. Now they're here with us. So we'll bring them. So they actually came with us. And we established them in our room so that she could worship them while I was worshiping Krishna Balaram. She was called away, and she can tell the story here.
We were here about 1 week, and I was happy to accept the fact that women do not do deity worship in Vrindavan. So I had our Gaur-Nitai, and I thought life will be nice. And my husband will be pujari, and I'll just stay in my room and worship Gaur-Nitai. So I was here about 1 week, and Kishori Devi found out I could make patterns for the deities. And so she and Sarab whisked me off immediately to Jaipur with them, where I stayed in the Pandey Murtiwala's house for about a week, making the patterns for Sitaram, Lakshman, Hanuman, because the pujaris wanted, the seamstresses wanted to get a jump start on making the outfits before the deities were even shipped.
When was this?
76. It would have been September 76. So I was making the patterns for the Bombay deities in Jaipur. And when I came back a week later, I went into my room in the guest house, and I saw, and somehow someone said, oh, Triadas has deities, Gaur-Nitai, they're very nice, they have all dresses, crowns, everything, ready to go.
Ready to go.
So when I came back from Jaipur, they were already on the bullock carts on their way to the Kumbh Mela. So that was my blessing. I was devastated, but at the same time, a very few days after that, word came from Prabhupada's rooms that Prabhupada had blessed me, that he said I can go on the altar and dress Krishna Balaram in conjunction with my husband.
Assisting me.
Assisting.
Yeah.
So I used to dress Balaram, and he would dress Krishna. But the nice thing was that our Gaur-Nitai deities stayed on that bullock cart, and they were having such a nice time in every town and village. They went clear across India after the Kumbh Mela, that Prabhupada attended, and I know Kusha Devi was at that Kumbh Mela too. And the
But
deities were.
when I sent them with Lokanath Swami, I had them make a promise that they would come back, but something else happened.
No, well, I got Krishna Balaram in exchange, so that was okay. But what happened was is after the Kumbh Mela, they continued on Padayatra, and they went all the way to Bhuvaneshwar, and then they eventually became installed in Bhuvaneshwar, and they were the lifeblood for the devotees
They're the
for
small
about
deities at
10 years
Bhuvaneshwar.
while they were constructing the Bhuvaneshwar
Yeah.
temple. So that was a nice thing, but that's the...
Jai. Share something else with us. Here we got this.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada was living very peacefully in Vrindavan, hearing cartels and Radhe Radhe.
Ah.
Still, he took the great endeavor and effort to go to America to share this culture of Krishna and Vrindavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda with the Western world that, of course, he had no idea what would happen. But he accepted it. He accepted it as his mission. His guru had instructed him to speak to the English-speaking world. America was the leading country of the world. He felt if it somehow was accepted there, would it be accepted everywhere? So he would come to Bombay because the lady who managed this shipping company lived in Bombay, in Juhu. And she said, Swamiji, this is very dangerous to go to America. It is not simple to go across the ocean. You may die. He insisted. And of course, Sumati Morarji gave him a free passage on her freighter, not in a luxury liner, a freighter. And that's where Srila Prabhupada saw the land that is today Bombay's temple. And he thought, what a nice place to have a temple. So when he eventually came back from America with his Western disciples, he made arrangements to purchase that land. So through great effort, we all know the story of the heart attacks on the Jaladuta, his living on the Bowery. So much struggle in America, sitting under the tree in Tompkins Square Park, chanting Hare Krishna. And how slowly people were attracted. Oh, you're from India? Slowly, slowly, everything came from that. Talking to Prabhupada, chanting with Prabhupada, being attracted by his personality, by the kirtan, by the philosophy, people wanting to help him, bringing a carpet, bringing a lamp, helping him find a place. And then his dream, of course, of building a temple in Vrindavan, which is Krishna's place, Krishna's home. And putting so much pressure to get the job done, to finish it. So Prabhupada was so anxious and enthusiastic about this project. And we, the Westerners, coming, our difficulty was nothing compared to Prabhupada's difficulty. Prabhupada was 70 years old. He didn't really know anybody in America. He had no money. He had no helpers. As a business plan, it was a complete failure. No manpower, no money, no nothing. Just love for Krishna and complete surrender. If you want to make me successful, you'll make me successful, but I'm going to do your work. And of course, Krishna did make him very successful. And now we have temples all over the world, and the heart of the world is sitting here in Vrindavan. So our getting sick from the bad water, the mosquitoes, really this is struggle for us, but compared to Prabhupada's difficulty, this is just really a small. But being in the temple after those first few artiks, like that first artik, when Prabhupada is standing there in front of Krishna. Well, yes, exactly. So Prabhupada did the first artik in front of Krishna Balaram. But I was standing right there, right by Vishaka. She was taking that famous picture.
Right.
And I was just glued. I was glued to the banister because I couldn't move because there's so many people behind me pushing.
Literally glued.
But to just see Prabhupada offering that artik and just so proud and so happy, it was just like worth everything. But I'll tell you a humorous story about the next night. So the next evening, of course, Sundar artik, Prabhupada's godbrothers would come, the evening, big artik, and whoever was responsible to have all the various, paraphernalia and ghee and, we had these big ghee lamps, I think that probably Jamuna arranged, beautiful big silver ghee lamps that were always lit on the altar when any puja was being done. So I think I was the head pujari for like 2 hours before that or something. So they went on the altar. There was no ghee for the ghee lamps because they had only had half a kilo of ghee or something. So it's time for artik. They're doing the artik, but the ghee lamps are not lit. So Prabhupada was very upset. He said, they're malachas, they cannot do this. So somebody immediately went to get ghee, and then Bhavananda went on the altar and put the ghee. We lit the lamps. Yeah, it wasn't so great. But in general, everything was, Prabhupada was so satisfied. And as Turiya Prabhu was explaining, spending time in Vrindavan, we really had intimacy with Srila Prabhupada that mostly wasn't available in the West. In the West, there's so many devotees and big temples, and Vrindavan and India, it was just sweeter, and it was just so charming.
Charming.
It was such a, it's like being in Prabhupada's backyard.
Yes, yeah.
Not being in the living room with the fancy furniture. It was like being, so it was a nice way to experience Srila Prabhupada. But of course, being a pujari, I was a cook and a pujari. So it's famous, cooks, pujaris, we miss everything.
Right.
The cook is always in the kitchen, right?
The pujari's on the altar.
I never went on morning walks with Srila Prabhupada. I went on parikram in Vrindavan until I became the head pujari.
Right.
When I was just, here for the festival, and I went to all the parikrams on the bus with all the devotees. But as soon as that was finished, and I was like, now you're the head pujari, I never went anywhere.
Right.
Until at the end of a year, when I was basically going to go back to the West, then I went to see a few places.
Yeah.
But when you're the head pujari, or just a pujari in general, I mean, you're tied to the altar. And of course, being the head pujari is, you're responsible. So you're dealing with how many people? I'm sick, Prabhu, I can't dress the deities. I'm sick, Prabhu, I can't come for arti. I'm not feeling good, I can't cook. You have to find somebody else to do it, or you have to do it.
Yes.
Because the show must go on, right? I mean, it has to happen.
It has to.
And it has to happen in time. So it's,
especially on time.
Especially on time.
Right.
And everything has to be clean.
Yeah.
So when I was the head pujari of Bombay, which was my next service, I said all the pujaris have to stay in the same place. They can't be scattered everywhere. People have to be accessible, because otherwise it's very difficult. Because here we were really spread out, and it was really very difficult.
And the turnover was rapid. The turnover of devotees was rapid.
And people would come and go, come and go, come and go.
So it was never a steady crew.
Yeah, it was quite a struggle. And like I said, there was no bottled water. Everything was a struggle. I'm not thinking of any other stories.
I wanted to add one other thing about, he was saying how everything has to be clean. And Srila Prabhupada also allowed us to have a women's cleaning party. I just want to say this because it should be documented by someone at some point in time that there was at the 4 o'clock afternoon time a ladies' cleaning party for the altar. And it was...
behind closed doors. Prabhupada said that the ladies could do service, yes, but never in front.
We had not heard it directly from Prabhupada's ear, but it came from Prabhupada's door. Whoever was Prabhupada's servant or secretary at the time came to tell us that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had also allowed women behind closed doors to do cleaning and service, but never when it was open. I just wanted to say that.
When Prabhupada was ill, sometimes, at some point, instead of giving Bhagavatam class, he would go to his garden and have the devotees read to him Bhagavatam. That was a very unique opportunity, I remember, that I was somehow able to get the time. Like you said, the head pujari was always busy and hardly... I never saw Vrindavan. I only saw the deity room. But that's Vrindavan for us. Krishna Balaram. That's enough, the Vrindavan, yes. But got the opportunity to sit with Prabhupada in his garden area with some other devotees. And Prabhupada enjoyed actually so much hearing his books being read to him. And I remember on this particular occasion sitting there and one devotee was reading, and it was a particular section from the first canto where there's many sages are mentioned and full description of each sage is there. And so Prabhupada asked at that time, he very simply, he said, "Oh, do you like that?" And he began to recall that before coming to the West, he had done all this research. He went to the library, he was telling, to research each of those sages, and that he wanted to include that there. So he was asking us if we actually liked that because of his effort that he put in there. I have a nice story, though, also, that when Prabhupada was preparing to come to the West, he was so proud to have those Bhagavatams now complete, those first 3 volumes. He gathered some of the local sadhus. One such sadhu I know, they call him Panditji, Krishnadas Panditji. He lives out of Govardhan. But he told us this story that he was there also. And Prabhupada handed out the books. The Bhagavatams. He handed out the Bhagavatams. So he was, in one sense, showing them off to all of them. And they were all holding the Bhagavatams, looking. And then Prabhupada told them that he was going to bring them to the West, and he collected them all. So they thought they were getting a gift. But Prabhupada told them that he wanted their blessings on the book also. That was his kindness. That let them hold the book. The sadhus can give their blessings, and then he'll take those books. So he wanted their blessings also. It was a great journey, of course. And everyone who knew that Prabhupada was going to go on this journey was amazed and wasn't sure if Prabhupada was going to live or die on that journey. I mean, there was a struggle, as we know, with the heart attacks on the boat and like that. But Prabhupada certainly amazed everyone. I mean, we were amazed by Prabhupada in the West, of course, but even here in Vrindavan, they were amazed that who they knew, the elderly gentleman with he had black overcoat. I had heard that he's walking the street or something. They didn't know how he was different from anyone else or everyone else, but he was the designated person to bring Krishna consciousness to the world. And so they were all amazed. And we know when he came back here with his American disciples, he was greeted by the mayor, as we heard, and like that, with great fanfare because he had done practically the impossible. Would you like to say something more? He put Vrindavan on the map. Yes. Jai.
Yeah, in that same vein, a few years ago I was taking a rickshaw to Loy Bazaar and with another devotee, and some type of abadut just kind of jumped on the rickshaw. I thought it's going my way, so okay. And then he jumped off, and then on the way back, another man jumped on the rickshaw. And so but he was a local person, and actually I'd just come from the West, so I was dressed in Western clothes and didn't really have any signs of devotional outfit. But he just looked at me and said, "Your spiritual master is a very wonderful person." So I wanted to get more from his realization. So I said, "What spiritual master do you mean?" and we were on the way back to Krishna Balaram. He obviously knew, but I just wanted to see what his appreciation was. And he's a local person, and he said, he's come. Prabhupada went all over the world. The temple worship is still going on here. I think it was Dino Bandhu Prabhu was also saying he had a similar experience, that the locals of Vrindavan, they said, there's many sannyas and many great gurus have come to Vrindavan, but when they've departed, also their mission deflated. That after a while the temples became very sparsely populated. But here we see, after so long, your ISKCON temple is vibrant. And it's Prabhupada's blessing, and it's also to the credit of all the sincere devotees that are maintaining the standard and doing with love and devotion, and that devotion is contagious. We see that as we were saying earlier, everyone has something to give, and to see devotees carrying on and enthusiastically and with was Harisar this morning, or we were saying that there has to be the bhav. Without the bhav, without the love for the deities, what is it? It's all theoretical. But a person can sense that love if you're doing something with love and devotion, and you can't give what you don't have. So more devotees are coming because they're sincere devotees trying their best to get Prabhupada's blessing and are being successful. And that's apparent to everyone all over the world. And it's only increasing. And Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Let me add to that what you just said. Our driver, when we were pulling in for the first time, we said, "Oh, so many new big temples. They look impressive," but the driver said, "No devotion." Big temple, no devotion though. But everyone appreciates the devotion that takes place here at Krishna Balaram, the enthusiasm that devotees show, that is carried down through the lineage of Srila Prabhupada, directly and through his grand disciples and like that. So I was, the other thing I want to mention, I just had been in Jaipur, and we saw beautiful Govindaji and Radha Vinod. And while we were there, some young persons just came up and started talking with me, and they said, "Oh, you're a disciple of Srila Prabhupada?" And they had so much respect. "You're a disciple of Srila Prabhupada?" And they said, "Tell us about this, tell us." They wanted to know. And they had bead bags on and everything. So Prabhupada's reputation is certainly spread far and wide, and it is still growing, his reputation. And I think that is our service now, of course, is to keep Prabhupada's reputation alive. And as it grows, as you were mentioning today also, Harisari Prabhu, is that our life has limited time left, all of us who are now up in our late 60s and 70s. But and so many times Prabhupada said that I am becoming old man, now it is all up to you. And in one sense, I'm sure we are all feeling the same way, that the next generation is taking on this legacy with the enthusiasm that we also felt for Srila Prabhupada when he was present here. Anyone else? Some story?
I'll just say one thing.
All right. Whoops. Wrong mic again.
I'm a slow learner. Hello? Hare Krishna. I was talking to this couple this morning. He's French, but he lives in New York, and she's born in Egypt, studied in England, and is married to the French guy, and they're both artists. And he's been coming to India for 40 years. And he's been many places. Usually they spend about 4 months. This year they're only spending 6 weeks. They've been in Vrindavan for 3 weeks. They're leaving tomorrow. This is their first time in Vrindavan. So they said to me, "We like Vrindavan. Everybody's happy here." So it was a very interesting conversation. And, you know, so many people are coming now to Vrindavan. As I said,
Yes.
Prabhupada put Vrindavan on the map.
It's true.
You know, India, Vrindavan was always known as being a sacred place. But the West knew nothing of Vrindavan. And with the opening of this temple, slowly, over time, Vrindavan has become very known. So it is a great place for worship. It's a great place for preaching. Because anybody we meet, we can speak to about Krishna. Anybody can become interested. This is a place where the devotion is there for everyone to see. It's a great honor to be back here. It's a great honor to have somehow helped in some small way 40 years ago. It wasn't really, of course, it wasn't really my plan. It's just life just kind of happens to you, and I just went along with it. It just seemed like the right thing to do. And just coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and basically laying my life at his feet and not being a particularly good student or disciple, but just somehow having that affection and love to the best of my ability and wanting to help, wanting to assist, wanting to take part, wanting to please. And it's like a wave that just picks you up, and, you know, it brought me to Paris, it brought me to Vrindavan, it brought me to Bombay. I'm still in Bombay. One day it may take me to Krishna. I don't know. But, you know, each of us is unique and individual. Each one of us has got his and her own strengths and weaknesses. We can each perform service that another person can't. We have our own way of doing things. So it's a matter of putting the right picture with the right frame, right? How to engage people, how to introduce Krishna to people you meet in your own life, whether it's in the temple, whether it's on the street, whether it's at the supermarket, or, you know, however you interchange with people, you connect with people. I find that I walk down the street in Bombay and people see me and they smile. So I don't know if I'm smiling or they feel something in me, but, you know, a devotee can glow.
Right.
So it's to the degree that we can imbibe the devotional mood, to that degree we become like a radiator for devotion. Srila Prabhupada was completely immersed 24 hours a day, in public and private, you know, asleep or awake, in such a way that we, you know, Western students, people, that we had no experience of any of this, but when we came in contact, we fell in love, and we wanted to climb on board, we wanted to take part, we wanted to be with him, we wanted to please him, we wanted to help in some way, big or small. Some devotees did great service, some devotees did little service, but, you know, the pot washer in the temple can be the most surrendered. You know, it's got nothing to do with title, it's got nothing to do with anything. It's just an affair of the heart.
Okay.
That's basically it, right?
It
It's
is.
an affair of the heart. So Prabhupada brought bhakti back to Krishna's hometown. This is Raman Reti, where Krishna played in the sand when he was a little boy, Krishna and Balaram. And we're all sitting here 40 years later. So much has developed, and we're here to celebrate.
Go ahead.
Haribol.
Many times in the West, they have high school reunions and things like this. But this is more, like you said, affair of the heart, to come together. Truly, we're all family. Prabhupada established that. Just like one astrologer said that he will build a house in which we will all live. So that's family. And certainly coming together with God brothers and God sisters who we haven't seen for so long, we feel close, whether we serve together or never, even in the same facility or vicinity. But there's a closeness, naturally, because everyone who surrendered to Prabhupada had engaged life and soul to whatever capacity they could in the service of Prabhupada, just to please Prabhupada. And that binds us all together. And that family line doesn't stop. This is parampara. It continues. We're all of that same intimate family that comes from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, our Divine Guru Maharaj, and the founder, Acharya of the ISKCON movement here. It is a family, ultimately. And we can feel that. And I think maybe not so much when we're young, we're impetuous and moving here and there. But as we get older, we really feel, I think, the bond of connection with our God brothers and God sisters who all serve together to serve Srila Prabhupada's ideal. All we knew, as Narottam Prabhu mentioned, we fell in love with Prabhupada and we wanted to please him. And whatever his vision was, we wanted to help him manifest that. And so to be a part of that was the most wonderful blessing upon us all. So we thank you very much for congregating today. I wanted to mention that Daivi Shakti has compiled a wonderful book with such remembrances that will become available. And today at 5 o'clock in Prabhupada's house, there is going to be an unveiling of some of the original deity paraphernalia and the designs of the patterns that were all in place during Srila Prabhupada's time. The original flute that Krishna was installed with, the Krishna Balaram's flute, Krishna's flute, excuse me, of Krishna Balaram, the ankle bells, and many of the original designs of the dresses, the crowns, and other things that my wife took the opportunity way back when to make a copy of that by design. And they're going to be all displayed today at 5 o'clock in Srila Prabhupada's house. So meet us there. Thank you very much. Jai Gaur Premanandi Haribol. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.